Kono bangumi wa goren no sponsor no teikyo de okurishimasu. Yeah.
Oh.
Bleach Heat the Soul, March 24th, 2005. Heat the Soul is a one-on-one fighting game developed by Aiting, or Rising if you prefer, the creators of Bloody Raw. Oh yeah. Well, with these credentials, it can't be bad, surely. The game begins with a glorious, specially made animated sequence set to the show's first opening theme, Asterisk, performed by Orange Range. The opening shows a few characters who barely feature in the game. Perhaps said characters were going to appear, but ultimately didn't. With only 5 playable characters, 6 including the one and only hidden character, the roster is smaller than even the very first Tekken or Virtua Fighter. However, the game makes up for this with its presentation, without a doubt. The menus are presented as slick graffiti artwork sprawled across brick walls. The character selection screen shows the characters walking, side profile, like the show's opening sequence. Everything is presented in that punky style one associates with rebellious youth, a style used so liberally in the first season. The game pops out of the screen, thanks in no small part to the use of cel shading on the character models. If I were to exaggerate, the result looks like it could have been plucked straight from the TV show. The colours are very vibrant, the game runs smoothly and at what appears to be a speedy, consistent frame rate. No complaints here, it looks fab. This is a traditional fighting game for the most part. Whittle down the enemy's health using cheap tactics and then you win. No, I meant well thought out combos and techniques, obviously. Despite the goal being to reduce your opponent's vitality, the outcome of each fight is ultimately dictated by the soul gauge. It's like a tug of war between the souls of both combatants. Bleach uses the idea of the soul as a key part of its universe, so it is great to see that turned into a game mechanism. The strength of your resolve directly affects damage, length and reach of special moves, speed in which one can release soul energy to stun an opponent, and in general how quickly you can attack. The soul gauge can be tipped in your favour by performing a successful Ryatsu, soul power, burst, or by avoiding an opponent's special attack. Having a high soul gauge is the key to winning battles against high-level computer opponents. That, and mashing your special moves. Always mash your special moves. You don't understand. The special moves are overpowered. Always. Parts of the soundtrack are youth culture-inspired beats laden with samples that I swear could have been taken from a fast food commercial that aired in the 90s. Basically any of the in-game fighting music or menu music I would consider excellent. The battle music can be quite eclectic, with odd samples thrown in for good measure, but it serves the game well. Not even close to what appeared in the show, but I like it. Each of the 6 playable characters have fighting moves that are not entirely accurate, but I think the trade-off between what is correct and what is enjoyable to play has been neatly compromised. It appears that Aiting have a lot of knowledge of the show and its characters, features and rules. After all, the soul gauge mechanic is entirely rooted into the series' rules and lore. It is clear they care. At this point in the show, a lot of what characters were capable of hadn't been revealed, so the invention of attacks just to fill up their command list is absolutely fine and expected. I only have 2 major issues with this, the first game in this PSP-only franchise. Firstly, as with most older fighting games, autosave is disabled by default. I lost a few hours progress the first time I played this, simply by forgetting to save, or to enable autosave function. Giving you a heads up, most games in this series do not autosave by default. I cannot fault the game entirely on this, most older fighting games don't autosave, so I should have checked that. My second problem with the game stems entirely from the unlock system. Winning battles earns points, which are spent on collectible playing cards. Every 10 cards you get, you unlock something new. At 100 points for a card, it takes ages to get anywhere, especially when you consider you could pick up a card you already have and waste those hard-earned points. Maybe I'm just impatient, but, well, it feels like they're trying to make the game last longer, but in a lazy way. There are only 139 cards in the game, but near the end you're more likely to pick up cards you already have. What a swizz! I guess the plan was that it would take you until the release of the next game before you managed to unlock everything. Outside of a story mode, there's the usual arcade-style mode, in this game labelled Versus CPU. Included is the traditional survival mode, but unlike many other fighting games there is no health recovery between fights, and Time Attack, which is Versus CPU with a local time leaderboard. For multiple players who each own a copy of the game, there is Sole Versus mode, which is the generic pick a character, pick a stage versus mode. There is also a hidden minigame called Block On, which is a combination of Atari Breakout and the Bleach franchise. You're waiting for the I'm just joking, aren't you? Block On is a relatively enjoyable stint of arcade-styled ball-busting action, made all the more gimmicky, played by holding the PSP in vertical orientation. There are 21 levels made up of 3 different board layouts. Each level has a character portrait in the background, and some levels feature characters who make their debut in Season 2. You are required to launch and bounce balls to destroy blocks on screen. Power-ups, based on the special moves of the characters they represent, make a nice change to the flow of the game. However, like with most Atari Breakout clones, the game mostly consists of getting to the last 3 blocks in a far corner and not being able to touch them. In such occasions, the game will sometimes give you a power-up which splits your ball into 20 separate balls and clears the board almost immediately. Also hidden is the 2-player version of Block On, played by 2 people on the same PSP, held either side and played with the corresponding buttons. It is quick-fire gimmicky nonsense, and I like that! While unlocking Block On, you'll also fill up an entire gallery's worth of illustrations, music tracks, voice clips, and sound effects. Oh joy. Heat the Soul is a generic offering, but it is exactly what Bleach followers needed at the time. It does stand on its own without following the series, but not as strongly as it does if you're into Bleach. On merely the game content, presentation, and enjoyment factor, I believe this game deserves a look in. Much more so if you're rewatching or just started Bleach and want a gameplay companion to the first season.